It's really wonderful to be with you. And I remember so vividly and with such love being together in February in Mumbai, and that beautiful opportunity.
We cannot hear you.
Oh, okay.
Sadhviji.
Yeah, just one sec. They're fixing the audio.
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
There's a problem in the audio. Sadhviji.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Again it's going. I don't know.
Just 1 second. They're just getting the tech going.
It's working, Sadhviji.
Mm-hmm.
I've muted you.
Okay.
Can you speak?
Not without my points.
Okay, speak now.
Okay.
Okay.
Tusharji, can you hear me?
No, you're muted. Now can you ask him?
Tusharji, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay,
fine.
great. So as I was saying, it's wonderful to be with you, and I remember so vividly and with such love our time together in February in Mumbai. And now here we are again, but in such a different situation, at a time in which that which no one ever imagined to happen has happened. And we have no idea how it's going to change, how it's going to go, how things are going to form. As we are in this moment, and as we are focusing on our inner world, our inner self, and the outer world, it's so important to realize actually that there's two different ways of looking at this. When you gave me the topic of inner self and outer world, I thought it's so funny because at the core level, at the highest level, at the truest level, they're one. And yet, at the level where we are today, there is this juxtaposition, my inner world, my inner self, and the outer world. So we actually have both of these levels, and we need to address both of them, and we will address both of them today. First, we'll begin, though, with the level that you meant it about, meaning, how do I today, in the midst of the chaos in this outer world, in the midst of the disease, the pandemic, the uncertainty, the collapse of so much in the outer world, how do I take care of my inner self? So we'll begin with what I call our lowercase t truth, meaning it's true, but it's the truth in terms of this particular intersection of time and space. Right here, right now, in this physical body, my inner world, my inner self, and a world outside that seems completely separate. This world of the pandemic, this world of fear, this world of collapsing systems. But then, before we finish, we're going to come to what I call the capital T truth, which is the world in which actually there is no difference between the inner world and the outer world. But we'll come to that after. We begin in this lowercase t truth. And a good way, by the way, to think about these different truths, these different levels, is it's not so much about higher or lower or better or worse or truer or not truer. I like to think about it in terms of the way that you used to have old TV sets, where long before the days of watching TV on computers, long before the days of remote control, there was actually a knob. And you turned a knob and you went from, channel 4 to channel 5 to channel 6. All of them coexisting. But you could only be on one channel at a time. You could only be in the experience of one channel at a time. Now, of course, you can be on one channel with another up in the corner over here and another streaming down below here and watching something else on your mobile over there. But if you go back to that image, you'll realize that this is the level, this is the way, that these different levels of truths exist. And so we begin with the channel that most of us live on. The channel that most of our internal TV sets are turned to, which is this channel of I am separate from the world. I've got an inner world in which I feel certain things, I think certain things, I have my own individual reality. And then there's the outer world, which is impacting. And this is the dilemma, is that most of us think about the outer world as that which determines how our inner world is. If you say to most people, how are you? How are things going? What you're going to get is answers that are based on the outer world. I got a raise at my job today. It's a great day. Or it's a sunny, beautiful day. Great day. Stock market went in my favor. Great day. Went to a party. Great day. Or lost my job. Stock market collapsed. Bad day. Rainy day. Bad day. Everything in the outer world as that which changes the inner world. We live as though जैसे परिस्थिति है वैसे हमारे स्वस्थिति है, वैसे हमारे अंदर की स्थिति, हमारे मन की स्थिति. And that's the dilemma, because then whether it's COVID or whether it's any one of the millions of things that stole our peace, stole our happiness long before COVID, we're talking a lot these days about stress. But we were talking a lot about stress long before COVID came. So even though it's, the focus of the day, the scapegoat of the day, stress was a problem long before COVID came. So do not think that as soon as there is a vaccine for COVID or as soon as the economic model picks back up again, as soon as the lockdowns are over, as soon as our company is moving again, then I'll be okay. Then what it means is you won't have learned anything during this time. The universe has given us this experience. But if you stay in that same mental framework, जब परिस्थिति ठीक हो जाए, तब मेरा मन की स्थिति ठीक हो जाएगी. Then you haven't learned anything. Then we'll have a vaccine to COVID, but we'll still have to keep having stress management seminars, stress management workshops, how to take care of ourselves programs. Use this opportunity as a way to actually realize no matter what is going on outside. Even there's a virus, there's a pandemic, there's a collapse. That's paristiti. But paristiti is not that which should be pulling the reins of Miraswastiti. And so this is really what our core teaching is. But what happens, and it has happened long before COVID, but COVID is a great example to look at, is the minute there's a problem, we get stuck in this myth, this illusion of lack. And again, COVID did not create this. We've been living in an illusion of lack long before COVID, long before we had this pandemic and this issue. We've been living in this concept. There's not enough money. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough opportunity. Not enough wealth. Not enough happiness. All of this illusion of lack. This is where all of our internal sense of misery comes from, sense of stress comes from. If there's not enough, every one of us is living in survival mode. Because then I have to fight you to get the tiny little bit of resources, tiny little bit of business, of money, of wealth, of opportunity. And then it creates a culture of competition instead of a culture of connection and cooperation. And the dilemma with that is, in a brief moment, our bodies can deal with stress. Brief, short moment, you can deal with that. You fight a cricket game, a football game. Okay, the bodies are full of stress. There's only going to be one winner, one loser. We can handle that temporarily. Half an hour, 2 hours, you're rooting for different teams. But that's not sustainable. It creates disease in our physical bodies, and it creates disease in our societies. And that's what was happening long before COVID. But COVID has just exacerbated this problem. But together we need to agree that we are not going to get lured into this culture of lack. Because in that culture, we lose our ability to connect with each other. We lose our ability to feel empathy, to feel love, to feel connection, which means that we lose our ability to actually cooperate in the creation of the world that we need to live in together. None of us is going to be able to survive, forget thrive, alone and separate. COVID has made one thing very, very clear. We are in this together. None of us can be safe unless all of us are safe. None of us can be healthy unless all of us are healthy. This pandemic is going to knock on every single one of our doors eventually. If not today, if not tomorrow, day after tomorrow, likerako. And if not COVID, if you're one of the blessed ones who there's a vaccine that comes before it knocks on your door, then don't worry. It'll be something else. It'll be another virus, another superbug, lack of water, climate change, some other form of economic collapse. All of these threats, they're literally lining up to wreak havoc on our lives. Why? Because we've been living in illusion. But when you speak about inner self and outer world, the question every one of us is being challenged with today is, can I be okay in the midst of the chaos in the outer world? Can my internal sthiti be okay, even when paristhiti is a pandemic, even when paristhiti is collapsing on so many levels? Can I find an okayness inside, even in the midst of chaos in the outer world? Because most of us live by thinking that only when the outer world stops being chaotic, only then I will be okay. Most of us spend our lives waiting for people, economies, traffic to change, to be okay, such that I can then be okay. We're waiting for this chaos in the outer world to change because we are dependent upon the outer world as that which gives us the ability to be okay in the inner world. Sunny day, I'm okay. Rainy day, not okay. Stock market up, I'm okay. Down, not okay. People around me treating me with love, with respect, with compassion and care, I'm okay. People around me insulting me, being rude, competing with me, not okay. Pandemic wreaking havoc upon the world, but not impacting me, I'm still okay. Pandemic wreaking havoc upon the world, impacting me, not okay. All of that in the outer world. And so we wait. We wait until the pandemic is okay, the stock market is okay, our economy is okay. People treat us better. They learn to treat us better. They change, they become better. When I was young, my favorite singer was a singer named James Taylor. And there was a line in a song that James Taylor sang called Mudslide Slim in the Blue Horizon. It was my favorite album for a long time when I was a teenager. But there's a line in it that I want to share with you because although for me it brings me back to singing along to music alone in a car at 16, it's a line that is rooted in so much truth and so much awareness that I've actually held on to it for all of these years. And the line says, I'm going to cash in my hand, pick upon a piece of land, and build myself a cabin back in the woods. And Lord, it's there I'm going to stay until there comes a day when this old world starts to change in for the good. And what I love about that is, and of course, as a teenager, you think, yeah, he's right. This whole world better start changing. I'm just going to, live in a cabin in the woods until it does. But maturity, emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, the difference between being, a angst-filled 16-year-old and being a mature adult with wisdom is you realize, wait, it's not this old world that has to start changing for the good. It's not about building myself a cabin in the woods and waiting for the world to change so I can be okay. Sure, the temptation is there. Sounds great, as though sort of in my absence, the traffic will take care of itself, the economy will improve, pandemic will improve. People suddenly will be touched by the wisdom to know, to be nice to me, to treat me with love and respect, to do what I want. And then I can come back. But we know, of course, maturity teaches us it's not how the world works. Spirituality is not an inoculation against bad things happening. A lot of times people think that somehow this old world, as James Taylor said, this world that needs changing, that somehow just, okay, I'm mature enough to know it's not about a cabin in the woods. So instead, if I just become spiritual enough, if I just do the right pujas, the right prayers, the right mantras, get the right guru, do the right certification program, that somehow the stock market will do what I want it to do. The traffic will do what I want it to do. The pandemic will do what I want it to do. People around me will do what I want them to do. And we always remind people, spirituality is not an inoculation against the physical world going up and down. You could be the most spiritual person in the world, but if you walk off a building, you're going to plummet to the ground. There's this thing called the law of gravity. And all of the mantras and all of the pujas and all of the prayers don't change the way that the law of gravity interacts with the physical mass of my body. It pulls it, splat, on the ground. Whether I go down yelling profanities or I go down chanting a mantra, I'm going down either way. So spirituality is not an inoculation against losing your job, losing your loved ones, a stock market crash, a pandemic. What spirituality does for us is it teaches us how to be anchored and grounded and connected. Spirituality teaches us to be okay in our swastiti, no matter what is going on in the paristiti. Spirituality gives us what we refer to as equanimity. Equanimity is this ability to be balanced. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks so much about having equanimity, about not going up and down, about the wise one, the yogi, being the one who in the face of success, failure, gain, loss, is the same. But now here's what's interesting. We misinterpret sometimes equanimity to be lack of caring. We interpret equanimity to be indifference, apathy. I don't care. It's not that. Equanimity doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean I'm indifferent. It doesn't mean I'm apathetic. All it means is that my internal joy, peace, isn't determined by fluctuations and variations in the outer world. It's like, think about walking through a beautiful fruit orchard and you see a juicy orange tree and you look at it and you love it. Ah, what a beautiful orange tree. And then you walk by and you see a banana tree. Now, we understand that bananas are a different type of fruit than oranges are. For us to look at that banana tree and to say, oh my God, doesn't the tree know that instead of being long and yellow, it's supposed to be round and orange? Doesn't it know that instead of being kind of chalky, it's supposed to be juicy? Doesn't the banana tree know it's done it all wrong? No, not yellow, orange. Not long, round. Not soft and mushy and chalky. Juicy. We never do that. Because we understand. The orange is the orange, the banana is the banana, and while we certainly may have preferences, we never expect one to be the other, and we are able to actually appreciate the variety and the difference between them. In the same way with flowers. You may prefer roses, and if you go to a flower shop and you have to spend money, you may buy roses over another type of flower. But if you walk through a flower garden, you're able to appreciate all the different types of flowers without wishing that one became like another. We don't look at the jasmine and say, oh God, I'm going to build myself a cabin in the woods until you, the jasmine flower, learn how to have beautiful, velvety red petals. I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to be miserable until you learn how to have beautiful red, velvety petals. Until you grow on rose bushes, I'm going to be miserable. Now, we have equanimity with regard to different varieties of flowers, with regard to different varieties of fruits. But interestingly, with the people in our lives, we do exactly the same thing that we don't do to fruits and to flowers. We look at one person and we say, why can't you be like this one? You've got it all wrong. Don't you see how this one is like that? Don't you see how I'm like this? You're supposed to be like that. You've got it all wrong. I'm going to ignore you, or be mean to you, or keep nagging and harassing you until you become like something else. That's where we need to bring in equanimity with regard to the people around us, with regard to the weather around us. And again, remember, it doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean I'm indifferent or apathetic. It simply means that even though I might have a preference, I might like oranges more than bananas. I might like roses more than sunflowers or jasmines. But I'm able to have equanimity. And I'm even able to have joy. And I'm able to have appreciation for diversity as I walk through a beautiful fruit orchard or flower garden. And in the same way, we need to have this equanimity in our life. Yeah, sometimes the stock market is up. Sometimes it's down. Sometimes our business is booming. Sometimes our business is failing. Sometimes everything around us is exactly the way that we want it to be. Sometimes it's not. But what spirituality gives us, not the ability to turn roses into jasmines, or to turn bananas into oranges, or to turn a crashed stock market into a rising stock market. But it gives us the ability to have equanimity, to have peace. And ultimately the truth is, that peace is more precious, more valuable than anything in the stock market. More precious, more valuable than anything in the economy. In fact, one of the greatest ironies of our time, I think it was the Dalai Lama who said it, is that we lose our peace to make money. And then we try to use our money to get back peace. And of course it doesn't work. We lose our health to try to make money. And then we try to use our money to get back our health. So equanimity is that which keeps us in peace. It keeps us in health. Mental health for sure, emotional health, spiritual health, but also physical health. Because we know that stress is the worst thing you can do for your immune system. It's the worst thing you can do for your physical body. So actually being peaceful, being calm, being in equanimity is not only the best thing that you can do for your mind, but it's the best thing that you can do for your physical health, for your immune system. So that equanimity is what is so important. And in order to have that, we have to take care of ourselves on the inside. The way to do that is to root ourselves, ground ourselves in the divine connection. This is why our sages and our saints and our rishis, for thousands of years, have told us, connect to God. Go within. There's a beautiful line in the prayers that we chant every morning here at Paramarth Nikatan that says, Tu akale nahi pyare, Ram tere saath mein. It means you are never alone. God is always with you. And when we know that God is with us, then we're able to handle anything. Think about the way that a child is in the arms of the parent. No matter what is going on in the outer world, when we are in the arm, we know it's okay. There's that beautiful story of the young boy on the sinking ship, and everybody's panicking and screaming and running, trying to get life jackets to jump into lifeboats. And there's this young boy sitting very peacefully and calmly. Someone says to him, "What are you doing? Aren't you afraid this boat's going to sink? We're all going to die." And the little boy says, "That's my mom over there. My mom's here. Mom's going to take care of it." So in the same way, we have to realize we are in the arms of the divine. And when we have that faith, when we know we are being carried, when we know that there is an intelligence in the universe, a benevolent intelligence in the universe, that it's not all up to us. It may not work out exactly the way that we want it to. The universe does not dance according to our tune. But what we know is it's carrying us. It's holding us. And that faith and that connection, that's the inoculation against stress. That's the inoculation against losing the health of our mind, of our hearts. And in that inoculation, we learn to actually change our reality. And the first and most important piece is to change our thoughts. Our thoughts create our reality. We'll talk more about this in a little while when I come to the inner and the outer is one. But for the moment, when we're still inner and outer separate, my thoughts are that which create my inner reality. My thoughts are that which determine how I feel about the present moment situation. What I deem to be normal and what I deem to be a problem. And the dilemma these days is that we have sort of collectively decided that stress is normal, that anger is normal, that reaction is normal. So many people these days you hear say, "Of course you're stressed. Of course you're upset. Of course you got angry. Of course you punched that guy out. Of course you went and got drunk all night." Naturally. What else could be expected of you? You got fired from your job, or you lost your money, or your spouse cheated on you, or something else happened that shouldn't have happened. Something else happened that we didn't want to happen. Of course you reacted. Naturally. We've created this new normal that's actually a disease. Stress is not normal. And in that new normal of stress that collectively we've created this idea that it is normal, we've lost actually the true normal of ourselves, which is joy. Look at babies. What do babies need to be happy? Little bit of food, not much. Mushed up, squashed apricots, squashed green beans, right? Once they're off the breast and off the bottle, what do babies eat? What's baby food? Squashed up green beans, squashed up apricots. And before that, milk. Maybe powder mixed with water. Certainly not a sumptuous, yummy, yummy meal. Little bit of food, a little bit of water, and their own toes. Watch babies lie on their backs and play with their own toes. Watch babies play with any little, your keys, the tube that goes on the inside of a roll of toilet paper, the wrapping paper of a box. We're the ones who have to say to babies, no, the present is on the inside. Koldo isko. Under they go. Babies are very happy with the wrapping paper. Babies are very happy with the box. So happiness actually is our normal. It's our nature. But we have created a sense of thinking that stress is normal. And we've kind of collectively agreed on this. And so that was already the new normal before COVID. But COVID has just given us yet another excuse. Yeah, of course you're stressed, my God. Yeah, of course you're upset, my God. Thank God they allowed the liquor stores to open again. We've agreed on this collective narrative. And that's what's killing us. We need to change our thoughts and to start realizing stress is the disease. Happiness, joy, peace, that is our normal. So what to do? How do we navigate this on a logistic level? Number one, keep yourself anchored, grounded, connected. Connected within, connected to the divine, connected to the truth of who you are, which is joyful. Somewhere along the way, you may have forgotten how to be joyful. Find it. That's your true self. Love, that's your true self. If along the way you've forgotten, find it. Go back. There are breadcrumbs. It's like the story of Hansel and Gretel, right? There are breadcrumbs. Our consciousness has left us breadcrumbs to find our way back to our true nature of joy, of love, of simplicity. Find it back and realize that just because things in the world are not working the way you want them to, you don't need to react. We say, I had to get angry, you made me angry. Nobody can make you angry. Somebody can be rude to you. Someone can say something obnoxious. Someone can steal your money. Someone can steal your job. People can do all kinds of things to you. But they can't actually make you angry. That's a decision that we all make. So number one, reground yourself, re-anchor yourself, reconnect to the truth of who you are and stop letting the paristiti or the people around you, what they're saying, what they're doing, what the stock market is doing, stop letting it determine your inner state. Reground yourself in that. There's my favorite joke on that is the joke of the man who goes to the doctor and he tells the doctor something is very wrong. Whatever I touch, it hurts. When I touch my head, it hurts. I touch my back, it hurts. I touch my stomach, it hurts. So the doctor runs every test and every scan. Finally, he calls the man in and he says, well, the good news is nothing is wrong with your back or your stomach or your knee. The bad news is your finger's broken. Because your finger's broken, whatever you touch, it hurts. And this is what's happened in our lives. Our internal grounding and anchoring has gotten broken, disconnected. We have forgotten who we are. And so as we move through the world hurts. And it gives us reason to hurt. Stock markets crash, we lose our jobs, we lose our money, we lose our health, pandemics come. People are obnoxious to us. They're rude. They steal things from us. They harm us. They backstab us. But ultimately, the pain is not from that outer world. The pain is the internal broken connection. And when I get myself reconnected, again, repeating what I said before, it's not an inoculation that things in the outer world won't go wrong. Just like getting the finger fixed does not mean you'll never bump your head or you'll never eat bad food and have food poisoning and a stomachache. But it means touching a bumped head with a finger that isn't broken hurts a lot less than touching a bumped head with a finger that is broken. And since we can't control when and if we're going to bump our head, we can't control when and if, God forbid, we eat something bad and get food poisoning. What we can control is fixing the connection in our finger. We can control that connection. And this is where it's so important. We must take back the reins of our life into our own hands. We act, as my Guru Puja Swamiji always says, we act like light bulbs. The world kind of comes and turns us on and off, flips us on and off, like light bulbs. Now, take back those reins of your life. Take back that power. Take back that awareness of who you are. We say to each other all day long, oh, how are you? We meet in the morning, how are you? We meet again at lunch, how are you? We meet again at the end of the day, how are you? We meet again for a party in the evening, how are you? And every time we answer, oh, doing great. Oh, not doing great. Oh, this. Oh, that. The truth is, who we are shouldn't be changing between 8 a.m. and noon and 5 and 8 p.m. The fact that we ask each other, how are you, all day long, means that we've collectively agreed to live in a world where how I am changes based on the time of day, based on the weather, based on what's happened between 8 a.m. and noon, or what's happened between noon and 5 p.m. There's a beautiful story of the person asking the sage, how are you? At a spiritual meditation retreat, and one of the participants says to the Guru in the evening, how are you? The master looks at him and says, you asked me that yesterday. What makes you think that I would change between yesterday and today? I already told you yesterday that how I am is wonderful. Why would you ask me that again? Did you forget what I said? In the same way, let us stop bouncing around. And the only way to do that, the only way for our minds to stop being good, bad, irritated, frustrated, joyful, in despair, the only way for that to happen is to be anchored and grounded in something internal. That truth of the self, that joy of the self, that love in the self, that faith, that awareness that we're being taken care of. But in order to do that, it requires us to let go. Because a lot of us move through the world with this death grip. Death grip on our jobs, death grip on our bank accounts, death grip on how we want life to be, how it should be. When it all goes right, we are okay. When not, we are not. But the truth is, in order to really be okay, I have to let go of that death grip. I have to allow the awareness that that which makes me okay is much deeper. But I have to let go. of that attachment to the false in order to be able to live in the truth. I have to be prepared to let go of the darkness. You can't hold on to darkness and light at the same time. If I want to live in light, I have to be prepared to say goodbye to the darkness. There's a beautiful story of a young girl who, in one of these carnivals at school, had won a pair of fake pearls. But she loved them. She loved them. They were made out of some kind of paste or something that, kids get. She loved them. Every day she'd wear them. Every night she'd hold them. She slept with them under her pillow in the night. And every day her dad would say to her, "Do you love me?" She'd say, "Yes, Daddy, I love you." And he'd say, "Well, then give me your pearls." And her eyes would fill with tears, and she'd say, "Daddy, ask anything of me but my pearls. I'll give you anything but just not my pearls." So every day he said, "Okay, no problem, sweetheart." But every day he would ask her the same question. Finally, many months later, he asks her one evening. She reaches under her pillow. She pulls out her fake paste pearls. She hands them to her dad and she says, "Daddy, I finally realized I love you so much more than I love these pearls. Okay, take my pearls." And what does her dad do? With a smile, he reaches into his pocket, where for the last 3 months he has kept a little box. And he hands her the little box. She opens it. And it's actually a strand of real pearls. And he said, "Sweetheart, when I saw how much you loved those, I thought you should have real pearls, not just fake ones. But I wasn't able to give you the real ones until you were ready to part with the fake ones." And I love that story because this is what it's like in our lives. We hold on to this fake idea of success, of wealth, of what we need. And God is there, grace is there, trying to give us something real. But we have to let go of that attachment in order to be able to get the real thing. And with just a few moments left, I want to just circle for a moment back to that other level that I had said we would conclude with, which is that capital T truth. Because we've spoken this whole time about how to make my internal sense of self be okay, be peaceful, be joyful, even in the midst of all of that that's going on. But then there's a higher level truth, which is there is no inner and there is no outer. There is one. This is the core teaching of Advaita Vedanta. There is nothing but God, which means nothing but self, which means as is the inner, so is the outer. We are literally creating our world around us by our inner world, our own thoughts. Our own inner creation is manifest in the world outside. And so it's not about how can I, in isolation, be okay, be peaceful, be joyful in the midst of this chaos. But rather it's about how can I, through my thoughts, change this chaos outside. How can I, through changing my inner world, change the outer world? We say, "Jaise bhitar vaise bahar." As is my inner world, so is the outer world. And so when my inner world, when my thoughts are rooted in scarcity, rooted in competition, rooted in fear, rooted in separation, rooted in loss, rooted in lack, rooted in illness, well, that's what we manifest in the world. We are the creators, not just of our own internal world, but actually of the outer world. This is what our saints and our sages and our scriptures have told us for thousands of years. We now have modern quantum physics telling us the same thing. We now have scientific studies proving the power of the mind, of the thought, on the world outside. My mind, my thought, my intention changes. Everything ranging from the rate at which a seed germinates, sitting in a patch of dirt in a laboratory, thousands of miles away. Studies have been done. My thought changes the rate at which plants grow, changes the rate at which an immune system cell divides in a petri dish in someone else's hands thousands of miles away. Again, studies have shown this. Studies at renowned institutions. The power of the mind, the power of thought, the power of intention. This is the frontier of science these days. But of course, it's what our Shastras told us an eternity ago. It's what our sages and saints and rishis have been telling us thousands of years ago. So if you think all the time, oh my God, I don't have any money. Oh my God, what's happening? I'm losing my job. Oh my God, I'm going to get sick. Oh my God, everything is collapsing. Oh my God, the economy. That's what's going to happen. But if collectively we have a different thought, and collectively we create a different reality, one rooted in health, in love, in truth, in enoughness, in abundance, that is the world we will create. And that's the power that we all have together. The only thing you need to do is do it. So many of us hear these truths, we read the truths, but we forget to actually live it. It's like putting sugar into a teacup, but not stirring it up. The tea stays bitter. You can keep dumping spoonful after spoonful of sugar into that cup, but jab tak you don't stir it, it's going to taste bitter. Same thing in our lives. We can keep reading, keep listening, keep going to seminars, but until and unless we actually allow these teachings to be stirred up within us, we don't actually benefit. So consider today the spoon that stirs it up in you. And now act. Change the thoughts, change the narrative, change your internal reality, and together we'll change the outer reality. And if people have questions, yes.
Sadhviji, nice to meet you again. This is Medha Virkar. Every time I'm listening to you, what hits me the most, or rather I realize that there is so much musicality in your speech, the way you talk, and what you speak is so simple to understand that it is indeed a great pleasure first of all, to have you with us in these troubled times. Thank you very much for finding this time for us. I know you have so many things to do, so many souls to bring peace to, but thank you very much. You found time for us, second time. Thank you. Some of the thoughts that you shared are actually eye-openers. And when, as after the session, we will ponder over it and we will try to inculcate this whole thing within us. Like stirring, you said, it's such a beautiful concept. I'm going to stir these thoughts in myself, and I'm sure the others here who are attending this lecture will do so. Tushar?
Yeah, Mega.
Do you have, can you, we have time to
Yeah, we have time for some raise of hands.
Yeah.
We just ask the audience if anybody is interested in speaking to
Yeah.
Sadhviji. And we have 15 minutes, so we have
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Dear friends, we have a couple of minutes.
You can
If
unmute
you
me
wish to
and then sit down and answer.
ask questions, please
Trying
raise
to
your
fix
hands.
something.
Okay.
Sadhviji will talk to you.
You're still
Um,
using
We'll give you a
audio
minute.
from
Please
here. That's
raise your hand and you
It's
can
clear,
ask your
I checked
questions.
Yeah, Medha,
Yeah.
Mr. Ashutosh Tripathi, Dr. Ashutosh Tripathi has raised his hand. I'm allowing him to talk now.
Yeah.
Ashutosh, you can ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you say something?
Sure. So thank you very much. Thank you, Sadhvi and Pranam. And it's really refreshing to hear such nice words. I have one question. Actually, I was quite impressed also when I listened to you at the event
It's a Zoom thing,
of Mumbai Mudrak Sangh
but it's
in
okay. Audio
February.
is actually clear.
So
I
that
can unmute you.
what you told is absolute truth. Look inside, realize who you are. Do not compare yourself with others. But also the bitter truth is that we every day interact with a society, and society runs with certain norms. So what are the methodologies? I mean, simple techniques, simple methods could you suggest for people? I mean, is it the bhakti or it is chanting or it is just dhyan? What a normal person like us, like me, can do? Thank you.
Sure. Great. So, a couple of pieces here. First of all, don't resign yourself to this idea that somehow society is like this. And that's what society is, and I just have to figure out how to stay peaceful anyway. Ashutoshji, we create the society. Kaun hai society? Us. Every one of us. We are creating society together. And so the first piece that's most important is we need to stand up and to say, this is unhealthy. This is not good for any of us. We don't want to live in a society like this. When all of us together say that, we become able to change our educational systems. We raise our children differently. The problem is that every one of us has sort of agreed to this collective narrative. And we need to have the courage to say, this is not something I believe in. And okay, for a little while until society changes, you may not necessarily be the big fish in the pond. You're right. For a while, the big fishes in the pond are those who are engaging in life in a way that we would not necessarily term dharmic or awake or spiritual. But if no one has the courage to say, I am prepared to sacrifice being the big fish, being the head, being the top, having the most, for actually being a model, a magnet of truth, then nothing will ever change. But what I can tell you actually is You are not alone. Everyone I talk to, all over the world, people all feel stuck by this society. The problem is that everybody points outside to society. So from other places, they're pointing to you, you're pointing to them. And collectively, we are the problem. So it's essential that we actually have the courage to stand together. And maybe it's just within your own Mudrak Sangh. Maybe you come up with a different system within your own community. A system of supporting each other. A system of cooperation rather than competition. Begin small, but begin somewhere. Create at least a micro society amongst yourselves. What would it look like if instead of stealing each other's business, we shared? What would it look like if instead of safeguarding our secrets, our best practices for fear that, oh my God, the other guy's going to get it and then they'll succeed and maybe they'll take some of my customers? If we actually had the courage to say, okay, I may not end up out of this exercise the richest guy in the batch, but I'm going to be the guy who has the courage to stand for what I know is right, to put a brick in the creation of a temple of societies that I want to live in. I'm going to stop being a pawn in a society that doesn't have the values that I know are good. And so that's one piece. The other piece is in terms of managing our own self, staying grounded, staying peaceful, staying joyful until society changes. It's not really about whether you do it through chanting, through prayer, through study. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself gave so many different ways. He spoke about bhakti yoga, he spoke about jnana yoga, he spoke about karma yoga. There's so many different ways to find your way back to yourself. If prayer, if to yourself. If prayer, if chanting, if that works for you within you, do it. But if you just feel like you're going through the motions, don't do it. Then study instead, read the scriptures. Try to understand them, try to live them in your life. Read a different chapter from another holy scripture every day. Or listen to the lectures of the masters and try to live that in your life. Or if that also doesn't touch you, serve. Serve anyway. Karma yoga is something that goes beautifully with bhakti, it goes beautifully with jnana. It's sort of the river of life that runs through it all. But when you serve with the awareness, not that I'm doing something for you, but that through this act of service, I am being given an opportunity to purify my own ego, to purify my own buddhi. Try to bring in bhakti and jnana and karma. And if the jnana isn't necessarily scriptures, don't worry. Use your own jnana. Ask yourself, who am I? Ask yourself, did I really have to lose myself? This person was rude. Or this person stole my parking spot. Or this person stole my job. Did I have to lose myself? Did I have an alternative? That I have found is one of the best Jnana Yoga mantras ever. Is there an alternative? Is there an alternative? When you think a certain way, you react a certain way. Ask yourself every time, क्या कोई option है? क्या if everybody in the world was in this situation, would they all act exactly the same way? And what you'd find is there's always an alternative. And so as things happen in the world, do not allow yourself off the hook so easily as to just say, हाँ वो तो संसार है, वो तो society है, करना तो पड़ता है, आपको मालूम है संसार कैसा है. Don't let yourself off like that. Your dharma is not about how much money you can make or how high you can rise in a career field or whether you can be the most popular guy in the society. Your dharma is to live the truth of who you are. So stop selling yourself short. Society, hey. But as more and more of us commit and agree to actually live truth, and by the way, it doesn't mean we don't do business. We do business. Nothing wrong with business. But we do business in a way that's more rooted in cooperation. In a way that's rooted in an awareness that actually we're all one. Doesn't mean you don't think about playing a game of sports with a friend, right? So you go out on the court, you're on one team, he's on another team, you fight against each other. But you know he's my buddy. You know he's not my enemy. You know this is just a game. You're buddies again. In the same way. We must create societies in which we remember the truth of who we are. It's not us versus them. It's all of us in this boat together. And so for your own peace, your own joy, use whatever spiritual practices work for you. But most importantly, remember who you are. You are love. You are truth. You are divine awareness, consciousness. And whatever practice brings you closest to that, meditation is a must. But whatever form you do that brings you into that awareness, do it. And then who you are when you go into society, it will be different. You'll become part of the problem. You'll become part of the solution rather than part of the problem, both for the world outside as well as for your world inside.
Thank you very much.
Tushar, are there any more show of hands?
Yeah, there is one question in the Q&A box.
Can we check it?
Yeah, you can check the Q&A box.
I'll need help for it.
Jigar, can you take it over? Yeah, just speak a little louder and just read the question, please.
Talking of meditation, which is one of the helpful methods gaining peace in these times, is it important to chant mantras? Are mantras only us concentrate or they are a different purpose? It's from Neha, printpackaging.com.
Great. Mantras are magic. Mantras are wonderful. Now, is it necessary to chant a mantra to do meditation? No. There's many forms of meditation that are not rooted in mantra. And that's beautiful and wonderful. There's so many different forms of meditation. So, no, a mantra is not required for meditation. There are meditation techniques of watching the breath, of open eye meditations where we watch maybe a candle flame, of awareness-based meditation techniques, insight-based meditation techniques, so many different techniques of meditation. But mantras, as I began, are magic anyway. And so whether you use one for meditation or not, you should definitely harness the power of mantra in your life. And here's why. Our minds jump around. We know that. The monkey mind is something that our gurus and sages have been teaching us about for thousands of years, long before smartphones, long before email, long before Facebook. There was already the monkey mind. It's the nature of the mind. And so the mantra is this wonderful, wonderful tool to actually bring the mind from jumping around and to bring it into one place. So the mantra actually anchors the mind into one place. But it's also more than that, because the mantras are alchemical. The sound of the mantra, and this is the sacred Sanskrit mantras that I'm speaking about, the Vedic mantras. These mantras were derived, developed, channeled, given as actually energetic, alchemical ways of transformation. They come into us through the vibration, through the sound, and they transform us. So absolutely, I am a very big proponent of mantras. If you have a guru and you're able to get a mantra from the guru, that is the most powerful way. But if not, don't worry. Choose a mantra that touches you, that means something deep to you, and chant it. Chant it with love. Chant it with devotion. What you'll find is that, first of all, the mind will stop wandering. It's like the way that a magnet pulls all of the iron fillings. In the same way, our thoughts are all over the place. And the mantra just brings them all in. So first it does that, but then also it becomes that transformational power, actually alchemically, to transform you on the inside. So choose one if you don't have a guru. And then chant it with love.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhagavati-ji. We have a small poll over here for judging today's lecture. I'm going to launch that poll, and I'm going to give the attendees 30 seconds to poll their views on that. I'm launching it now. I request everybody to just key in your yes. So I'm going to give 30 seconds.
Shar, it's not getting selected.
It is. I mean, some people may have problem. Depends on what device you are on. But most of them are voting. So I'm going to end the poll now. Yeah. Uh, 80% of the participants have felt the program as excellent, and 20% have felt it good. Thank you, Bhagavati-ji. And Meda, you can take over now.
Yes, yes.